right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the second audio workshop of the quarter. Today we'll be going over the basics of FL Studio. So I just want to kind of gauge who here does not have any musical experience whatsoever. Awesome! I will be crash coursing through a few things. In general, if there's anything you do not understand and you want me to clarify or explain in different ways, just let me know, because I'm really worried that I won't be able to do that well the first time. Alright, so before we go specifically into FL Studio, I want to go over what a digital audio workstation is in general, because FL Studio is a digital audio workstation, and so this is software used for recording, editing, producing audio files. So it's not specifically music. I personally also make my sound effects for video games in FL Studio, so you can use it for a variety of different things relating to sound. They're all capable of accomplishing generally the, yeah, sorry.
What Audacity is considered a additional audio workstation?
That's a bit of a hot topic. Some people would say yes, others would say no, but I think everyone would agree that Audacity is more of an editor than a workstation. And so, very, very fine difference between those.
Yeah, DAWs generally can accomplish the same things, they just have different workflows. So I have examples of different DAWs on the screen. You have Ableton Live, Logic Pro, and FL Studio. There's a bunch of other different professional ones, like Reason, Cubase, etc. They all basically accomplish the same things. It's just that, you know, making loops in one DAW isn't going to be the same as making loops in another DAW, etc. You can also think of it, if you're familiar with editing videos, the differences in different editing softwares, similar to that. So, another note before we begin, FL Studio is not free. As you've probably seen before you downloaded the free trial, it is not free. You can still create projects and save them and export whatever music you make, but after you close that project, you cannot open it again unless you buy a version of FL Studio. I've left a link here, so when I post the slides, you can go to and compare the different versions. It's a sucky limitation, but compared to other DAWs that only have like 30-day free trials, FL Studio has an unlimited free trial, so you can use it forever and not have to worry about it going away. So I'm actually going to. Oh yeah.
Do the computers that we have here have FL Studio on them?
I know I installed it on the middle one a long time ago. It might have been reset though. Kristen just installed it on this big one the other day.
Okay.
I can look to install it on that one.
That's a cool idea. We just share it. Or I was wondering if that might be troublesome, but I was thinking maybe if we were to start a project and then we'd zip it out and then send it to one of the computers that has FL Studio, then we can continue. Possibly.
If you could, yeah, you could.
Alright.
Alright. So I'm going to actually, okay, wait. Any more questions before we get into actually how this scary thing works?
Yeah, what do I do if I'm in this situation?
It just means that some of your windows are closed, so, let's see, I forget, which one's this one? Oh, it's this one. If you hit this button right here, it should bring up the playlist. We won't be talking about that till near the end. The first thing I want to go over here is the channel rack. So this is where you put all of your instruments. As you can see, there's already a kick drum, clap, hat, snare. If you're curious as to how I'm making these noises, you can use your keyboard as like a piano, and you can hit all the keys and you'll play different notes. It's entertaining. Good for if you want to noodle around and figure out what kind of chords you want to play and things like that.
Whoa.
Wow.
I should say for some of you, if you just downloaded the demo and you opened it for the first time, it might have opened up a big, giant, colorful project. That is, of course, the demo project. You're not going to see that every time you open FL Studio, but if you go to the file at the top left, hit New, you'll get a blank screen that looks a lot like this one.
Yeah.
So if you don't see this, just hit File.
Alright. Are we all on the same page? Anyone having troubles? Okay. So
Does that beginner project like open every time? Or just
No, it's just the very first time you open FL.
Yeah. Or it might be a trial version. If you open up the trial version every time, maybe.
Oof. Alright, so if you want to add different instruments to your project, you have two options. You can click this plus here, and you'll see all the different plugins you can add. It's a long list, yes. Or you can go to add, yes.
What's a plugin?
A plugin is, I don't know how to explain it properly.
A plugin is like it's like a little mini program that FL Studio can talk to tell it, hey, generate this kind of sound at like this pitch. So this right here is the FL Keys plugin. It's like a little virtual piano instrument. So she can play a piano inside a song. Good stuff. Other plugins are like pure electronic synthesizers. You'll see a lot of them in that big list if you're just exploring. But we got some good pianos right here.
So if you want to know how to add different pitch notes to your instrument, what you want to do is you want to hover over it with your mouse, right click it, and you'll see this thing called a piano roll. You want to left click that, and you should get another window that comes up. That looks like this. Does everyone see it?
Where's that piano?
Does everyone see the piano roll?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to expand this window, and you can read this kind of like a graph of pitch over time. So these are different notes. As you see, as I go lower and lower, there are lower pitches down here. If I go higher, there's higher pitches up here. And then I can place, basically left click and place whatever note I want wherever I want. Click and drag it, and then I can make it longer and shorter by literally making it longer and shorter by dragging it left and right. So I kind of want to go over how notes are divided in music. So we are in 4/4 time. This is our time signature. This probably makes no sense right now, but if we go to options and we go down to our project general settings, we can see that we have options for our time signature. You can see the numerator is 4 and the denominator is 4. So you read the time signature numerator, the denominator, so we are in 4/4 time. The top number tells us how many beats are in the measure, so there's a 4 in the numerator, there are 4 beats in our measure. Measures are another way that we divide our music. So we have a single measure, we divide each measure into 4 beats for the sake of this project, and we divide those beats even further. If you want to look, we have different types of notes, which I will get into now. So it's because this note takes up the entire measure, you can tell that because here's a 1, you can't really see it. But 2, 3, 4, these are all measure numbers. And so let's zoom in on this single measure for now. This note takes up this entire measure. That means it is a whole note because it takes up the whole measure. If we take this note and we split it in half, then we get a half note. That's 2 beats. Because remember, we have 4 beats we can have in a measure in 4/4. So whole note, 4 beats. Half note, 2 beats. What's half of 1/5? Not 1/5. 1/2. What's half of 1/2?
1/4. A
1/4.
quarter note.
Quarter note.
Fourth. So we get our quarter note. What's half of a fourth?
An eighth. An
An
eighth.
eighth. Yeah. So we have an eighth note, which is half of a beat. What's half of that?
16.
16th. So each one of these little rectangles here is a 16th note. I probably didn't properly explain this earlier, but yes, we have 4 16th notes to each beat.
Could it go to a 30-second note?
You could, but default no. But yes. So 16 notes are going to be the shortest notes we deal with. Just letting you know. So again, we have our 16th. This is our, what kind of note is this?
There's an eighth
note.
note.
Eighth note. What about this one?
There's a
Quarter.
Yes.
There's a half.
And that is a hold.
Okay. Then what's this for? Because you're so smart.
Dotted half.
All right. Cool. So don't worry about that one. We're just going over these basic ones.
I'm
Okay.
musically inclined.
Okay. So another thing we're gonna go over now that we've broken down the different lengths of notes are all of these rectangles right here. So actually, let me do this. I'm gonna create a new pattern. You separate your musical ideas and patterns. I'm gonna get into that a little bit afterwards. But so you have these different rectangles. And similar to the piano roll, each one of these rectangles represents a 16th note. A 16th note, just as we saw in the piano roll. But however, wait, did I say the name of this? I'm sorry. This is the step sequencer. Separated in 16th notes. Unlike the piano roll, we cannot adjust note length. We can simply just add more 16th notes by left clicking and dragging as much as we want. And then we can right click and drag and get rid of them.
Oh God, that's that.
I'll teach you, Jimmy.
Try it if you want.
I'll teach you the basics.
Make a simple drum beat, Kristen.
Oh, I totally will.
That's true. Do that.
So I'm going to place a 16th note on the beginning of each beat on the kick drum because the kick drum is a driving force in music. Simple kick drum.
Basic.
Generally have like a snare or something on 2 and 4. Beats 2 and 4. And then I can do something like this. Everywhere.
Oh my God.
But maybe your first beat doesn't sound like that. Maybe it sounds something like this.
Okay.
But yeah, just remember all these different rectangles are 16th notes.
Oh, and it works now.
And it's most commonly used for making drum beats. So I'm just gonna.
It's just
Oh, maybe a beat, that's a beat, another beat, every 4 beats.
We're good. Okay. So as you saw me briefly do earlier, I created a new pattern. You always start with pattern 1. What happens is that you go to this plus and it automatically creates a new pattern for you. If you don't do anything to this pattern and you go back to a previous pattern that's filled, it just deletes the empty pattern. So you want to use patterns to separate your musical ideas because say I wanted this cacophony to repeat for an entire song, right? If I did not make patterns, I would literally have to copy paste this for like 10 years, like this. Do you think this looks fun? Does this look fun to anyone?
Yes. Yeah.
The answer is no. Thanks. Where's the delete key? Okay. Because you know what you can do instead of copy pasting forever and ever? You have this thing called a playlist. Alright? You can take all your different musical ideas and you can just literally click and drag. It's so much more efficient. Yeah. You have different tools up here, so if you have like the pencil tool, you have to individually click things. Yeah. You also similar to the step sequencer, you right click and drag and you delete what you don't want in different places. So also, you shouldn't, unlike what is happening right now, you should label your patterns like responsible people. Because you know what happens when you make a ton of musical ideas and you want to put them in a song and all you have is a bunch of different numbers to look at and you have to sift through every pattern to figure out what you want in your song?
Headache.
This happens.
What is that?
This is 82 patterns.
What is that?
look at all these instruments and all these patterns. Do you want to go through every single pattern to find what musical idea you want to put in your song?
Yes.
Every single
The
time.
hell is that?
Yeah.
No, you don't! It's inefficient. This is mine from 3 years ago.
Oh.
This is why I started labeling things.
There's a question.
Yes.
I was wondering if there was like a way that you would separate your patterns, or like a way that you'd recommend it, like based on instruments or how long how long you have a certain part going for, or maybe like similar instruments with each other. How would you recommend we split it up?
Yeah, so I usually split my patterns by voice. So like, I'll do this really quick. I'll have like a drum beat, right? And then I'll have that here. Well, I'm gonna change how this is split up really quick. 2 bars, so I can paste every bar and it's not trying to paste on individual measures. Where are you? So like, I'll have like my drum beat here, right? And then I'll say, okay, well, I want to make like a melody or something. So then I'll have my awesome melody that's 1 note long, right? Paste it in there.
Yay.
And then maybe I'll decide that I want another instrument to play the same part as this awesome melody, right? So I'll put instruments that play the same part in the same pattern.
I see.
But once you go into like different voices, then I recommend not doing that. Sorry, this is another plugin. There are different plugins that do different things. I won't go into the specifics of what each of them does in this workshop, but they are things that make different noises. Ah! So like these are playing the same note, right?
I gotcha.
So I'm not labeling any of these because I'm horrible and I'm a hypocrite. So say I have this thing now, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to play something else.
Yeah, that's that.
Then I'll make a new pattern for it. It's gonna sound terrible, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Da-da-da-da.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
And I'll paste that in.
Da-da.
There's my song, guys. I hope you enjoy this. Also, this makes it easy because say at like this measure right here, I wanted to take out the drums for whatever reason. I could just right click and delete them. Instead of having to go into the piano roll, find the specific point in music where I
Right.
wanted to delete, and like select and delete.
Okay.
So that's why the playlist is good. And you should use it. Unlike, oh, I'm just gonna, just use it. Just use it, it's good. Alright, so now that we've gone over some of the basics, how do you guys think about making a song?
Right now.
Wow.
Yeah!
I'm already
Oh.
Alright,
It is time.
this time. Oh,
We all go up to the computer and we add one thing.
It's gonna be horrible!
And we don't hear it until the very end.
That actually sounds amazing, but
We do the Beethoven challenge. We're gonna mute the PC and just like for an hour and then see what comes out at the end.
that's beautiful. For now, I'm going to write this thing called the C major scale. So in music, we like to joke around that musicians can only count to 4 and they only know their alphabet from A through G. And they add in weird letters in between because they feel like it. It's true.
Yeah.
So our musical alphabet goes from A through G, in between all the letter names or these more interesting notes called flats and sharps. But C major is a good scale because it doesn't have anything weird in it. You just start on the notes already up there. But what note do you think we started in C major?
C.
If we started in A major, what note would we start on?
A.
If we started on B major, what note would we
B.
start on? Cool.
Cool.
Natural.
Cool.
So we're gonna start on C. And I said there's no funny business. I hope you guys know your alphabets. What do you think is the next note in the
Z,
C
I
major
mean,
scale?
Some D.
Okay. D. What's the next note?
Let's make some G.
G.
No.
What comes after D?
E. Okay, fine.
What's the next note? Okay.
G. Finally.
What do you think happens now?
A.
Right? Because we loop back around, so we go A through
A,
G,
B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Now it's self-remembering. Alright, A. What comes after A?
B. Cool.
And C.
C. Again.
Cool.
We've looped around now.
Awesome. So this is our C major scale. Fun fact, if you hit the shift key, and you use your arrows, you can move the collection of notes up and down as much as you want.
Gas.
Additionally, if you are familiar with octaves, you can hit the control key and it'll move your notes up and down.
This is so much more
octaves.
effective.
If you're kind of confused as to what an octave is, you basically take a note, or at least in the physics sense, you take a note,
And make it
double
higher.
the frequency, and that's the octave above that note. No. Octaves.
Oh,
But
I'm muting this.
so we have our C major scale. We're going to start by making a bass line.
Baseline.
Yeah. So we have, well, the bass line is made up of the bass instruments, which are the instruments that play the lowest notes in a song, typically. So what I'm going to do, because this is like my default, I'm going to take the fourth, why am I on? Hold on a second. I'm going to take the fourth note, high F, the fifth note G, and the sixth note of the scale A, because as you see, you can count the scale degrees 1 through 7. Oh, oops, my bad. 1 through 7 and then 1 again. If this makes any sense, I hope it does. You just count from 1, 7, and then 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take notes 4 through 6, and I'm going to put them in a pattern that I call bass, because I can. Someone probably has like an official way you're supposed to label all your patterns. I just do this. I make my bass orange for some reason, and I label it bass. Because I can. Label and name patterns as you feel comfortable, things that you'll remember, just so you know what they are. GMS is a plugin that does things. Let's look at this
It's
thing.
scary.
It does look very scary. Luckily, these plugins have things called presets. They're basically, literally, oops, my bad. So you see all these knobs? A preset is just a configuration of what these knobs are doing. So all the knobs should turn and make, or like be different, and have different lights on, etc. depending on what preset you choose. We're just gonna stick with presets and not deal with the knobs because that gets complicated. So we're going to go into this thing.
Bass.
We're gonna choose basses because,
What is that?
and then we're,
What?
what is,
What is those program name? Is it different type of
these are
bass?
different presets. These are different types of basses.
Okay.
So you can, literally what I do
There's
is
one-
just pick whatever one I want.
But there's one called Goblin Bar.
Goblin bar.
Goblin Barf?
Yeah.
Goblin Barf sound?
Let's try it.
Yeah,
Goblin
turn it
bar.
up, Kevin.
Let's try Goblin bar.
Goblin Barf? Wait, is that here?
Yeah.
Goblin Barf?
Let's
Yeah.
try this Goblin bar.
Oh.
Cool.
It'll work. It'll work.
Goblin Bar.
Alright. So,
Alright.
as I said before, I'm gonna take. I should label what the heck this is the scale. I'm sorry. Let me rename this really quick. You can left click and rename stuff. Scale. Okay. So this is my scale. As I said before, I'm gonna take fourth note, fifth note, and the sixth note, and I'm gonna make a really basic chord progression out of it. Chord progressions are basically arrangements of notes in a scale that allow the song to flow in a certain way. It's kind of abstract, but different chord progressions achieve different things. It's complicated.
Music theory isn't the primary focus of this workshop, so don't worry too hard if you don't know what chord progression is. But all we know right now is that we're gonna write some notes. We're gonna make like a framework of a song. Basically, we're gonna use just 3 of the notes from the C major scale. We're gonna write something just based off of those 3 notes.
So what I'm gonna do with my bass instrument is I'm gonna right click it, go to my piano roll, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. This is it. No, this is E. I can count. Is that F?
That's an F.
Okay, thank you. I can see totally. So I'm going to just make this a whole note. I'm gonna put my G here. And there's my A. Except for because it'll complete the phrase, I'm actually going to make this 2 measures long, so it sounds more complete, because if I stopped it right here, it would sound more like a waltz than average pop music that's always in 4/4. Alright.
How does that sound, Kristen? How does that sound?
This?
Turn it up.
Let me do this.
Wow.
There's a basic chord progression.
Just 3 notes. Forward, back, forward.
Yes, Brian!
How do you rename your patterns?
You can right click, and then you'll see all this. Oops. And you can click rename in color, and then you can rename in color. And then hit enter. You got it?
Yeah.
Alright. So here is our super simple bass line that's 3 notes. I'm just gonna click and drag it until infinity and beyond. Because I can do that. If I want to make it shorter, I can. If I want to make it longer, I can. It's there now. Also, please come back to me. Okay. So now we are going to make a melody. For me, when it comes to making melodies, I kind of make them intuitively. I literally slam my hands on the keyboard until I find something that sounds good to me. There are people who do it more methodically than I do, but that's the way that I do it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, if you don't know, because I never mentioned this, you can switch between pattern and song here, and it'll change whether you're listening to the pattern, the current pattern that you're on, or the song. You can also hit the space bar to start and stop the whatever is selected here. Like that, and be annoying about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a melody. Usually I just have like this playing, and then I kind of think of what I'm going to do. This is a good note to start on. I like this note. You don't have to copy me. You can be free. Make happy little accidents like, I don't know, Bob Ross. Your song is your song.
Is that what you said?
Huh?
You
You don't make mistakes. You just
make happy mistakes.
happy mistakes. Where'd I go? Oops. Okay, sorry.
Happy little melody.
Yep. So let's see. I'm going to do this. Generally what I like to do when I'm trying to think of some sort of melodic line is I like to take the pattern progress and just throw it in here so I can hear what it sounds like in context. So that I can hear those 2 notes. I can add to them I can add to my pattern while it's playing. It'll play the notes as I have them.
Oh wow, yeah.
Avant-garde experimental stuff. Yeah. Wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
If anyone needs help, by the way, just raise your hand up and I can come to you.
Oh, we got some shape of that.
Yeah. In my head, I'm doing this thing called subdividing. So I'm thinking of like what beats or like the off beats the notes are going to start on. All of your notes don't have to start on the beat. They can start like at the end of a beat. They can start halfway through the beat. They can start a quarter of the way through the beat. Experiment with this. It's called syncopation when a note starts off the beat. So it's anywhere. Whenever a note starts anywhere that isn't the first square here, it's called syncopation. Experiment with it. It makes music much more fun. Let's continue this.
Oh, I got it. It's still the same way.
Why not? Sure. Yeah, that's good. You can sing to yourself too if you're thinking of things. I don't know.
Okay. Left click.
Yeah. Wait, this one's gonna sound like I don't know. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I like this. I should name this. I didn't name this. I made a mistake. Oh no. Melody. And I just kind of. Boom, that's a color. Alright.
Let's play it together.
So now we've got our melodies. And a simple melody. Now we have. You guys can noodle around as much as you want, but I'm going to add another voice here. I'm going to add our drums, alright? So, basic kick drum here. Kick drums are kind of the driving force in a lot of music. They keep tempo, they keep everyone rolling. So, I'm gonna have this kick drum here. You can add a bunch of craziness if you want to. Add as much craziness. Be unique.
Be free.
Exactly.
Be free.
So let's see. Instead of having boring kick drum, let's actually just kind of sprinkle some stuff. And you know, if I hate it, then I can just get rid of it. Let's see. Let's see. Alright, what's this snare doing? Okay. Let's see what this sounds like in context. Maybe it'll sound good. Maybe it'll sound absolutely terrible. Additionally, if you think certain instruments are too loud, you have volume knobs for each instrument over here.
Why there are two things?
Yeah, so, okay, the left knob has to deal with panning. So if you've ever listened to music in your earbuds or headphones or whatever, you have two speakers, what panning does is it makes an instrument heard like more in one ear than the other.
Oh, okay.
So these knobs are currently in the middle, so they'll be heard in both ears equally. If I pan this all the way to the right, then you'll only hear this instrument in the right ear. If you were to have two speakers.
Okay.
You can't really tell. You can't really tell here because we're listening on a TV. But if anyone's watching the stream and you're wearing headphones, you might be able to tell. Alright, so I'm gonna, I don't know what any is gonna be like. So I can actually totally put it. I can't get my kick anymore because I cranked it all the way down. I'm not an expert in mixing, and we're not really gonna go into that today. We're just pasting notes everywhere, so fine tuning is not the priority here. Anyway, we're gonna add another voice now. We're gonna call the harmony. It's generally something that accompanies the melody in some sort of way. It fills space in the sense that it makes the song more interesting than just a bass, a melody, and drums. So, I wish I didn't do all of this intuitively and it would make sense. Actually gonna go into this mysterious thing here. This has a bunch of cool stuff too. This has a bunch of different drums. If you don't like any of the defaults, you can literally take any of the stuff. You see, this is a hat. Might not sound the best with this, but I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna hold it with my left click, and I'm gonna drag it over, and now I have a new hi-hat. That's what I typically do for drums. You can also drag them down below, and it'll create new instrument tracks for them. I'm not going to use all of these. It's okay. I'm hitting shift, and then I'm left clicking to select multiple. I'm going to go to this arrow here, and I'm going to delete all these because I don't need these. Alternatively, you can right click, delete. Yes. I don't want all those symbols here. What was I going to do? I was going to go to instruments.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of cool instruments here. You have different pianos, guitar, bass. I'm going to go down here to orchestral, and I'm going to select the string section. I don't know what this is going to sound like.
Ooh, I used this in like my very first game soundtrack.
Ooh.
This sounds good.
All right.
What is that?
Strings.
It's this thing, a giant thing I don't typically mess with. Hi. We're gonna go into the piano roll here. So I'm just gonna make some stuff that's kind of sustained. So just some long notes to fill in the space in the music, make it more interesting. I'm not gonna do any crazy 16th notes or anything. What do I have? Hello. In here and hope it sounds okay. Yeah, I like this. Quality. I forgot to name it. Oh no.
Harmony.
I'm forgetting.
Harmony.
I'm trying my best, okay? Okay, this hi-hat is What I typically like to do is stack notes on top of each other for this. I don't know, what does this sound like?
Try layering octaves yourself.
That's true. I'm gonna do that. Layering octaves, so I'm gonna take this E here, and I'm gonna play the E an octave higher right here. Yeah! There we go. I know what I'm doing. Actually, I can is.
Press
Oh no!
Oh.
Control Z.
Control.
Control Z. I'm actually gonna copy this. You can like control and then left drag and then you copy whatever you want. I'm just gonna take this note, copy, paste, shove it an octave higher, scoot it over here. Now we got a loop.
Cool.
Do you guys want to add more to it?
Everyone come up and add one thing.
That's not really a thing.
Yeah, everyone should go up and add something.
What? Really? Push.
Yes, Brian.
Really? Go try, Kevin.
Okay, cool.
Huh?
Can I do the harmony?
So what I like to do is just add a bunch of notes that are in the scale that are long, so they don't take up this like the room of the melody, so they let it come through, and then it's just the harmony's kind of there to fill in space.
But you're
Make
not
it
basing it off of like the notes and the melody, or?
Here, no. It's really just the scale.
You probably should.
Probably, yeah.
If you know music theory, you can layer them with different intervals, like a fifth or maybe third or something.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
What's that called? It's called, there's a term for that. It's like how but this, I guess.
What's it going? Oh, this one.
Dude.
This one. Now you can just keep this is the string
It's like a-
section.
it's
So
like
if
a
you
violin.
go, if you see packs here, oh, Brandon's got you. Now it's super loud because there's so many instruments. So I can turn it down. Additionally, if you have stuff playing and you don't like an instrument, you can just literally you can replace whatever instruments you want at any time. You just have to right click, hit replace, and say I hate this piano. I can click whatever plugin I want. I'll choose Citrus. Just why not?
What the hell is that?
It's a synthesizer
What?
plugin.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh!
Sorry. There's also a bunch of presets I can cycle through, but Citrus has so many presets that I'm just going to right click and it shows all of them.
How is that?
You just listen to them and figure out which ones you like and which ones you don't like. Which one sounds
Fat.
cool to you?
Where is that? Fat.
I don't know what you're pointing
Under
at.
brass.
Fat.
Under
Brass.
brass.
Brass. Fat.
This.
Yeah.
Try this
Okay. In like 15 minutes. I feel like I went through that too fast.
No.
Is there anything that I went over that people are confused on or would like more clarification, etc.? And anything. Anything.
Hey, what does it mean of that 8-beat songs? What does it mean of those 8 beats like stuff? What does this phrase mean?
8-bit? I'm not sure.
Who's playing that kind of?
I don't think I'd be the best to define the genre, but it uses a bunch of like simpler.
Can we just make
waveforms.
it like turn those whole style into that style?
8-bit?
And kind of more like other styles. I don't know.
You can replace instruments and choose which ones you like.
Oh, cool.
Like how you replace this.
That.
How do we make it?
Fat.
Fat.
I can, like even while it's playing, I can go back to this. It's helpful.
There's one more part that we didn't touch on, Kristen.
The
right?
mixer?
Yeah.
Ah, dumb. Okay.
Excellent.
Let's
Okay.
see.
So we've made our patterns, we've made our sounds, but there's one last thing we can do to make sure all of our sounds are special.
Right. So we have these numbers here, if you've been curious as to what these are. These indicate what insert in the mixer, which is this scary looking thing over here, that each sound is attached to. So this kick is in insert 1, so if we were to play a kick, you can see that both the master here, which is where all of our sound is output, if we mute this, nothing comes out anymore. So we can say the kick is, oh my god, stop. Let me just solo you. You can tell what tracks you're playing by which ones are lit up or not. That's the wrong one. So if we go here, we just have our kick playing. You see that the volume here in insert 1 is moving, and it's giving output in the master, so we can hear the kick in both. Oh.
The black bar on the left,
oh.
black bar.
We can see, yeah, thank you. We see the volume moving in both the insert and the master. If we were to go to our clap, you can see it's in insert 2, so we can see the volume here and the master. Basically what you can do with things like this, let's say I want to take this bass, right? And I want to, I want to do something funky with it. So I'm gonna play my pattern. So here's our bass line. I'm going to throw it in an insert that has nothing else in it, so that whenever I try to mess with this and do crazy things with it, it's not going to affect any of these because they're placed in different inserts. So I'm going to go to the mixer. We can now see that the volume of the bass is here. If I were to move this to 6, it would move 7, 8, 9, all the way to like 130 or something, 125. So let's move this to 6, or 5. We have another volume slider here. Typically what I like to do is if I have 2 instruments playing the same part, so like if we go back, where was it? Here. So if you go back here, we have like 2 instruments playing the same part. What I like to do is I like to find whatever balance I like between instruments. So like, say I think that sounds good. Say I like this balance between these 2 instruments. I can set them both to the same insert, and then instead of having to individually turn the knobs and have to worry about keeping that balance I like between the instruments, I can just use the slider and deal with them both at the same time.
Like measuring the volume, right?
Right. Okay. So this is another volume slider. I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna go back to my bass. So a cool thing you can do with the mixer is you can where am I? You can add different effects. So you have these different slots here. And what you can do is you can click this arrow right here, and you can have all these different other plugins that do cool things. So let's say I want to add reverb, which is kind of adds like an echo to my bass, so now it sounds more like it's in some sort of large room. Oh, I should do that. Hold on.
Maybe try with the piano instead of the bass.
That's a smart idea. Hello. Why not? Let's all the same this. Okay. So now we have. So can you really tell?
I mean, you can crank up like the wet signal and the decay time.
That is true.
You also turned it off just now.
Oh, I see. Because I want to hear it like without the reverb. So like this is what it sounds like if I have no reverb on it. If I turn it on, you can kind of hear it, right?
It's more relevant if you have like lots and lots of different notes playing that
Yeah.
are not sustained. So like play your melody again.
keys.
do it insert 6. Let's add some reverb. Let's turn all the reverb. All of
Take the melody and make it an octave higher.
like copy, like clone it and like.
No,
do
just
it
like take the
this.
melody and make
All
it
right.
an octave.
Should add a counter melody. So a counter melody is like the melody, except for it's.
I should say that right now. All right, I'm gonna give like a hard like
All right,
mark
stop.
point right here. No, not to stop. Just like
Okay.
that's all you need to make a song. You need to know how to add sounds, write music with those sounds, arrange those sounds into playlist, and then throw effects on them in the mixer. That's all you need to start making music with FL Studio.
Now I'm doing.
Now we're
funky
just having
stuff.
fun with it. So
Yeah.
enjoy.
Have some fun.
Here we go. 8 minutes. What? Thanks, Brandon. Da 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 da. Sad machines. Da 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 da.
How does this
7.
one sound?
Da, da, da. I like adding chorus to it. My mind's like roaring right now. Let's see.
Started on the F.
Ah. It starts and ends on the same note. I don't like that.
Over time, you'll develop your own rules. You'll start to find out what sounds good, what sounds bad. And the only real way to know that is to just keep on making more stuff. Keep on making your mistakes. What's up?
So when making a song, what should we focus on first?
It all depends on you, really. I know for some people, they like to start with drums or percussions like we did today. We just started with a simple drum beat. Other people like to start with bass line, some with just a cool sound that they just ended up making, and they just kind of mess with it a little bit. I can't really give a definite answer for that, because it depends on what you do.
For me, it differs like every time I make a song, to be honest. Sometimes I'll think of some repeating line I'd like to add stuff to, like some sort of counter melody or something. Sometimes I think of a funky drum beat and I say, I want to add things to this, make it sound good. For me, it's not really that consistent. Sometimes it depends on genre, but yeah. Let's see what else there is I'm gonna have 4 minutes until the stream ends. Honestly, I'm not talking that much anymore. I'm just kind of going. You guys want to watch me just noodle around a bit, or? I think I'm gonna end the stream here because we've kind of reached the point where we have all the tools to make a song. So I'm gonna stop this for now. I'm gonna work on this for a little bit. Yeah.
What are some free alternatives?
There's LMMS, which is from
Open
what
it
I
up in
understand,
Chrome.
kind of like I'll look for everything. Okay. Free alternatives. Please label your patterns. Yes.
These slides will be posted after the
Yes.
workshop, by the way, so we can all go back and reference. Yeah, LMMS is a good free digital audio workstation. It's definitely a lot more limited than FL. You can't do everything as well in LMMS. But it's what I started with back in 2012. I can't believe it's still in development. And it's a great place to go if you just want to learn how making music on your computer generally works. You won't get A+ results out of it, but it's good enough if you need a starting point.
If you have a Mac, you have GarageBand, which is kind of like Logic Pro, but it still works. Yeah.
Are there different types of rhythms that we, or like feels that we could put towards music, like a jazz feel or something like that, or swing?
Yeah. You can do that. You can actually swing notes here if you If you go to, where is it? I think this is the swing. Yeah, this is swing. More swing. Let me put some eighth notes down. I should. Hello? Is this not it?
That is it, but it's not. You're not going to notice it if you have
Because
it on
I
the
have,
offbeat.
like,
If you do
this is
that,
true.
if you just work in that pattern, just make the kicks and then just like plaster it with all the 16ths of the hi-hat.
Oops, oh yeah.
It's really hard to hear right now.
It's a lot of. There's a lot of noise. What if I take my harmony? No, not my harmony, my melody, my bad. Like, is it by pattern? That was the whole song. Wait, what? This is weird.
I think it's because we're only working in the at the minimum 8 notes, I think, and then the swing will
Really?
affect 16th notes, I think. As I heard.
Huh.
Middling results with the swing. Try it, experiment with it if you want. But
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
So it's officially 6 o'clock. Then we can't really keep you any longer, but if you want to stay for a little bit, Christian's probably going to keep working on the song, so stand by. Also, I released an EP this morning. You should probably check it out if you're interested.
Awesome. Alright, thank you guys for coming.